can start now, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Shri Sharat Kumar Memorial Award for Best Teaching Professor 2022 of IMT Ghaziabad. Today, we all have gathered here to mark and celebrate the spirit, passion, and the hard work that the dedicated professors put into their teaching to develop today's students into those extraordinary individuals who shine and contribute in all walks of life. I would like to request our director, Professor Vishal Talwar of IMT Ghaziabad, to please deliver the welcome address. If you please, sir.
Thank you, Professor Amrita. Thank you. It's a great occasion today. This is obviously the second Sharat Kumar Memorial Best Teaching Professor Award. Today happens to be his birthday. Someone who had multiple talents. Professor Sharat Kumar was someone who had multiple talents. He was someone who not only transcended management education, he was in the Navy, he was someone who got into management, he was the director of IMT Ghaziabad, but also he wrote books. I'll talk a little bit about that as we go along, but I also wanted to introduce to you today Shri Kamal Nath. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us today. He is the chief mentor of the IMT group of institutions, and thank you very much for gracing the occasion. You're someone who obviously does not need any introduction. Thank you so much for taking the time out. Professor Amrita will speak further on Shri Kamal Nath Ji's achievements. We also have with us Professor Ramgopal Rao. He was till recently the ex-director of IIT Delhi, and we've had the pleasure of having a chat with him a few minutes back. We also have, and of course, because today is the day when we celebrate the life and times of Shri Sharat Kumar, we also have with us Mr. Rahul Kumar. He is the son of Shri Sharat Kumar. He'll talk to us about some fond memories that he has of Shri Sharat Kumar. He's someone, Sharat Kumar Ji, the more I read, the more I talk about him, the more I realize that he was someone who we kind of believe should be leading a management institution, someone who was with IMT Ghaziabad from 1995 to 2002. IMT Ghaziabad obviously then was in its what I would call as teenage years when a lot of formative work was going on, years when a lot of solid foundations were needed to be built, and he was someone that people looked up to. Having spoken to people at IMT Ghaziabad, of those who remember him very fondly, they remember him as someone who really believed in the ability and the transformation power that management education could provide. He was someone who was forward-thinking. He was the one who set up the computer center. He was a person who talked about sustainability, a very quick decision maker, and someone who believed in the fact that people at IMT Ghaziabad would be responsible for transforming and taking IMT Ghaziabad to another level altogether. Thanks so much for joining us today. And of course, now we have Mr. Rahul Kumar here as well. Thank you for joining us, sir. Before we begin and we go into the main proceedings of the awards ceremony and the special session today, I would just like to quickly highlight why we are here. Of course, we are here to celebrate the life of Shri Sharat Kumar. We're also here to talk about the core reason for why we as faculty and why we as academics exist, to be able to transform the lives of our students, to provide the aha moments, to ensure that they are ready for their careers as they go forward. It's not just about a job. It is about setting them up for life, for a career, and build their prospects as they go along. It's not just about domain-specific knowledge. It's also about holistic learning. It's also about holistic development, and something that Mr. Sharat Kumar was really fond of and believed in. We just want to quickly tell you before, without letting the cat out of the bag, we want to quickly talk to you about the 3 nominations we have today for the Best Teaching Professor Award, the Best Professor Sharat Kumar Memorial Teaching Professor Award. Professor Amrita, would you like to quickly bring up the 3 names? Of course, we will not at this moment announce the winner. We will do it later. But right now, we just wanted to tell you the 3 faculty dedicated faculty who've essentially been shortlisted for nomination. Go ahead, please. We have Professor Harvinder Singh. He's professor at IMT Ghaziabad. Congratulations, Professor Harvinder. We have Professor Rakesh Kumar Singh, once again, professor at IMT Ghaziabad. And we also have Professor Garima Saxena. She's an assistant professor at IMT Ghaziabad. Congratulations to all of you. All of us are winners here. We'll obviously announce the best teaching professor at the end of the session. Thank you. Over to you, Professor Amrita.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. And congratulations to all the 3 nominees. We are so proud to see you there. It's really nice. Now, we would like to begin this solemn ceremony by commemorating and paying our deep and sincere respect to late Shri Sharat Kumar for his immense contribution to the developing stage of IMT. As the director of IMT Ghaziabad during 1995 to 2002, and again as chairman of management committee during 2003 to 2005, he played a key role in augmenting teaching environment in the institute. We have with us today Mr. Rahul Kumar, son of Shri Sharat Kumar, to take us through his life and the philosophy of late Shri Sharat Kumar. Mr. Rahul Kumar is presently the CEO of Everest Mechanical, Colorado, USA. He is a business and financial professional with over 26 years of experience in global financial markets, entrepreneurship, infrastructure, and management within large multinational financial organizations. A very warm welcome to Mr. Rahul Kumar. I would request him to kindly address us.
Thank you, Amrita. I appreciate it. Professor Talwar, Professor Rao, Kamal Nath Ji, Professor Serene, IMT faculty, alumni, students, and esteemed guests. It is a great pleasure that on this day, July 29th, I give remembrance to my father, Shri Sharat Kumar. I have no doubt that he would have enjoyed being at this August gathering today, especially knowing we come together as well to commemorate and facilitate the best professor of the year at IMT. Professor Talwar, Dr. Talwar, you have actually put out 3 names, Mr. Harvinder Singh, Mr. Rakesh Singh, and Garima Saxena. I'm sure all 3 of them will be equally worthy, as would several other of your faculties, members of this award. As some of you are aware, my father, his grandfather, was also a teacher, an educationist, and a Sanskrit scholar. I have no doubt that both would have enjoyed being here, knowing that this is what we commemorate today. My grandmother, my father's father, who was a passionate freedom fighter and also did yeoman's work in uplifting women's rights, especially for those from difficult backgrounds. As such, education, learning, teaching is something that resonates very strongly in our family and in our larger family. In many ways, shapes and forms. So it is indeed a pleasure to be here today to commemorate and profound this teaching award at IMT. My father was a passionate photographer, a prolific writer, and he also held several photographic exhibitions, wrote several books, and also directed and made a movie. He was caring and thoughtful. He had a caring and thoughtful approach to life that touched many people. He always had time to help people, and would regularly come in, and people would regularly come and seek him out for guidance and advice. He was a loving and compassionate friend, mentor, and guide to all. One of the books he had written back in 2002 was a book called Mind Your Management, a source of thought and action, which was well received and acclaimed. Given our gathering here today, of current and future managers, industry leaders, and thought provokers, I thought it may be appropriate to share an excerpt from the book as we reflect and forge our own paths of successes and failures. And I think it would be appropriate in a way actually going back to what he had written many years ago, actually 20 years ago. I quote from the final chapter of his book called Snakes and Ladders of Success. The glory and acclaim of successfully climbing a high mountain peak is wonderful, though short-lived. People spend many years of their life chasing the notions of success, and often with all their achievements in their pockets, feel that they have been shortchanged. How should one then decide the aim, purpose, and meaning of life? Reality is what a person decides it to be. The question is, how does he decide this? Reflecting on the human condition in a Shamshan Viragya mood, at a funeral, a priest once remarked, after you are dead and gone, how many people remember you, and for how long is it all that determines the essence and value of a good life? Or perhaps by contrast, it is as Shakespeare said, life is a tale told by an idiot, all sound and fury signaling nothing. One thought would be that perhaps it is about aesthetics, a matter of aesthetics of the mind, and to take this further, as Bertrand Russell said, aesthetics and ethics are the same thing. Reality is the individual. The purpose of holy mantras recited at the ceremony is primarily to give solace and support to those whose loved ones have departed. The rishis who created the mantras concluded, only reality of life is here and now, and since afterlife was unknown and unknowable, any action about it was neither possible nor worthwhile. In such a spirit, the productive inquiry would be to look at the processes and qualities that lead to achievement of success, not so much to analyze the praise heaped by posterity, but as seen to be practiced by the living person himself. In the ultimate analysis, much of management is management of people, which is in truth management of one's own self. And it is therefore imperative that one develops a capacity to look at one's own self objectively. It is often said that analysis is paralysis, and one should rely on one's own instinct to take action rather than getting lost too much in analysis. The truth is that instincts are not genetic, rather those that get honed with experience, and most importantly, with the analysis already made in an imaginative anticipation of similar situations. The whole process remains submerged just below the surface of subconscious layers of the mind. The subconscious can feel far greater and deeper implications of the available action choices than the conscious. It is in this inner self which drives the individual to act and implement that choices are made. Of all mental structures required for success, integrity is undoubtedly the most essential. At a higher plane of integrity, an audacious creation of self takes place. Openness and transparency are attributes of integrity. More than anything else, it is the most efficient way of achieving anything in one's private or public life. Anyone who opens himself to answering questions about his actions and choices creates for himself a situation which cleans his inner systems. With a decision to be open and transparent, one ensures that their mental processes are not clogged by devious secrets, camouflage, or subterfuge. Consequently, his imaginative and creative faculties operate at a higher level, and actions produce good results. Clarity, not confusion. With a clear declaration of an objective, the mind tends to wander off goals and weaken the spirit. The difficult part is then to deal with one's own mind. With the objective clear and unquestioned, there is a huge surge of energy. Ideas and concepts and mental constructs are the heart of the matter. Implementation then, laborious and equally important, is easier when the mind is clear. Often it is not recognized that it is language written or spoken which contributes most powerfully to most aspects of human life. Relationships, the heart of human existence, are made or marred by the language used. Two simple words, for example, please and thank you, achieve more results than any amount of authority. Language, on the one hand, then gives shape to the structure of the mind, and on the other, it reflects its quality. It is not for nothing that the Rishi held Shabda in great awe. Nothing happens in life unless one makes it happen. An individual is a cause of everything that happens to him. We are like planets revolving around the sun. The orbits we revolve in emotionally, materially, or spiritually are entirely what we are capable of being. Consequently, no one other than ourselves can change our situations. When one accepts this, there is a certain clarity that transcends and opens up chains of possibilities. It is important to discard filters imposed by past experiences. Anger, jealousy, and living expectations not only color our perceptions here and now, but also take a heavy toll on our emotional energy. Achievement, self-confidence, and faith come from dealing with the world with a consistency of purpose and concentration. We contribute to others and learn from them when our attitude to them is positive and constructive. Ultimately, the strongest force of human existence and success arises from visions that encompass ethical righteousness. From time immemorial, more often than not, we do not nearly see this clearly. Man, unlike sentient beings, has a deeper consciousness and conscience. These faculties, however, play their beneficial role only when properly activated by acquisition of knowledge through self-effort. Success then, perhaps, is a consequence of an individual's ability to touch, move, and inspire his fellow men with his vision of this objective. With this, I leave you to ponder on his last few words from this final chapter of his book. And again, appreciate the commemoration of this event, not only for my father, Mr. Sharat Kumar, but also to commemorate the Institute of Teaching and the teacher that we have for this award for this year. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir, for sharing your stories, your guiding light with us, and sharing stories of Shri Sharat Kumar. Now, it is our privilege and honor for every one of us to have with us today Mr. Kamal Nath, Chief Mentor, IMT Group of Institutes, and he has kindly agreed to grace this occasion by presiding over the event. We would like to express our sincere gratitude to him for taking time out of his busy schedule to be us with today. We thank him profusely for agreeing to grace this occasion with his presence. Honorable Mr. Kamal Nath needs no introduction, and no introduction can do justice to him. His stature, his achievements, his eminence as one of the tallest Indian political leader, passionate educationist, and philanthropist. He has been the longest serving parliamentarian since 1980 and has served as Union Cabinet Minister in multiple portfolios, including commerce and industry, parliamentary affairs, urban development, road transport and highways, textiles, environment and forest, and others. He became the 18th Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh in December 2018. Presently, he is the leader of the opposition in the Madhya Pradesh Legislative Assembly. Despite his extremely busy engagements in various roles in government, Mr. Nath has always remained available for guiding and mentoring IMT in charting our high growth path over the decades. We feel very proud and honored to welcome you, sir, to this solemn ceremony. I request you, sir, to kindly share with us your thoughts on this auspicious occasion, if you please.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be participating today. And I want to particularly thank Professor Ramgopal Rao for being here, who has driven IIT to great heights. And Professor Vishal Talwar, Rahul, and others present here, Professor Sareen. When I think back of IMT, I must at the onset say that I have no role in building it. I have no role, it's a false notion. Of course, I was there to give my views, which were sometimes very contradictory. But today, as we remember Sharat Kumar, I remember very clearly his life. I knew him from my childhood, and I knew him in his life as a Navy, when he was in the Navy. The first ship I entered was a Navy ship which he was on. It had docked, and that was the first time I stepped into a boat, onto a ship. I had never seen one from close, and I had the opportunity of going there. That was, again, a great education for me. What is a ship all about? I saw him in industry. I saw him in industry as the chief executive, handling various roles. And then I engaged a lot with him when he was in IMT. In IMT, most of all, when I meet some professors of that vintage who are very old, they tell me they remember him very fondly. He was a man, no nonsense man, a man who had the challenge in those years to find the right faculty. The most difficult thing for IMT was not to build infrastructure. It was not the cement and concrete, but it was to find the right faculty and to set a tone. Most important is every institution has to set a tone. He was able to set that tone. And with his no-nonsense approach, he did credible work in finding good faculty. I remember fondly today that when I was first elected to Parliament in January 1980, I was a youngster. I didn't know what Parliament was all about. And I sat and had a chat with him. I think it was the end of January 1980. I said, why don't you visit the district, my district, Chhindwara? Why don't you go there and tell me what I should be doing? At that time, Chhindwara had more than 90% people below the poverty line. That was the challenge I had. And he readily agreed and went and spent substantial time taking photographs, his passion for photography, and talking to people, engaging with people, or what their aspirations were, what was this poverty all about, and what were the steps we could possibly take. With a large population, it is the largest district even today in Madhya Pradesh. What do we do? Where do I start? I did not have a clue of how to represent a district, a constituency. He came back with some very good ideas. He said, we got to look at agriculture. We can't just look at industry. Industry can deal with 2,000, 1,000 people. But we got to look at agriculture. We got to look at sustainability. Chhindwara also had places where people, their only relationship with the world was salt. And he went there. You had to walk 3 hours down the ghats to get there. And the relationship the people had was with the world was only salt. They would use the jungly mangoes and the gutli of it. They would dry and make their atta. The leaves of various trees, they would make their sabzi and the alcohol. So this was the kind of places he visited. And I had been there, obviously, before. But again, I was at a loss. What do we do? He said, the first thing you do is to build a road. Then you get electricity and get these people, show them the world. So the complete spectrum from trying to show people the world, I remember his phrase, show them the world. And that's how we went about it. I remember when I was Environment Minister in 1991, he came to me one evening and he started talking to me about environment. I said, what do you know about environment? He said, I love the mountains, I love the jungles, I love nature. And many times in complex issues, I had a long debate with him about dams, because those were the days when we were going to build the Narmada and we are going to build big dam, the Tiri Dam. I said, what should we do? What do you think? Give me a different approach. I have extreme points of view. We have the NGO saying we should never have these dams, we should never build the Tiri Dam. And we have another one who said, if we don't do it, well, this is where we'll be. He was also my advisor, as a personal advisor to me on many of the challenges I had in environment. Well, today we remember him, and I'm very happy that we are celebrating his life. I have some very nostalgic memories about him, his writing. I asked him to write a book on the family, and he wrote a book on that family. Rahul, I don't know if you know it. And Rahul, you must also, this book which is written, which you were reading out from, do send it to me, because somehow I find I don't have it. But I remember the book. I remember him showing it to me. I remember him giving it to me, but I don't remember reading it. So if you have a copy, let's do reprints. And send me one. Do contact me on that. Well, today is a very interesting subject, and you have no better person than Professor Ramgopal Rao on how do we create an innovation-driven research ecosystem in India. That's the subject. I think this is the challenge, the 2020s. to 2030, this will be the subject. Between every decade, especially 2020, which started with COVID, till 2030, it'll be driven by research, research-driven ecosystem. Now, research can happen by design or by default. COVID was research by default. Who would have thought of Zoom? Who would have thought that we would be sitting and talking on Zoom today? Who would have thought of work from home? That's also research. New methods, new lifestyles. And I believe this decade will not only be driven by technology. Innovation will not only be driven by technology, but also by events and intellectual capital. If in India, we are very proud of one thing. I always have used that in my speeches. I said we have the largest intellectual capital and the largest entrepreneurial capital in our country. India, nobody can beat India in its intellectual abilities and its entrepreneurial abilities. So this decade is going to see research, innovation, and that is going to drive the ecosystem. We are going to have to see how do we adopt and adapt to it. Many times there are things we can see, we know of, but the challenge is how do we adopt and adapt to them. So this is going to be the challenge in this decade. Every decade has a challenge of its own. I remember the 90s was a challenge of how we transform India into a different world. The IT revolution, how we had the creation of Infosys and TCS, etc. Again, this is going to be the biggest challenge we are going to have. And I've always believed that an institution should not be an institution of literacy. It should be an institution which imparts education, not literacy. And there is a distinction between being literate and educated. You can be very literate, but very uneducated. Every day in my life, something or the other I educate myself with. And experience is an education. So IMT has always looked at education, not literacy. Of course, IMT has to go a long way. And for whatever advice, for whatever time I have, I will do that. But I'm delighted to be here participating in remembering Sharat Kumar, this memorial award for the best professors. The very fact that we have an award for best professors is again a very healthy sign. And I think we should next year not just have it in Ghaziabad. We could have it in Nagpur, or we could have it in Hyderabad. Why IMT Ghaziabad? We must be able to have it in different locations so that everybody can remember Sharat Kumar, which led to the creation of Nagpur and Hyderabad. So thank you for inviting me. I'm delighted to be here. Professor Ramgopal Rao, you'll have to excuse me. I'm trying to catch up on something else, but I will certainly listen to the recording. I have known of your laurels and your great experience, and you bring a wealth of knowledge by participating in this today. And I do hope your association with IMT will continue, and you'll be able to guide IMT. Please feel free to contact me, and cut out the formalities. Please feel free to contact me. I would love to engage with you as much as possible. So thank you all very much for inviting me. I have to rush off, but do send me the recording of this, especially Professor Ramgopal Rao's talk with you all today. Thank you very much and goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for sharing your observation and thought with us. Your constant guidance, mentorship, wisdom is the greatest support of IMT. We will continue to look up to you as we endeavor to achieve greater heights. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye. Now, we are really fortunate to have Honorable Professor Ramgopal Rao with us, who is currently the Pillay Chair of Professor in Electrical Engineering and the immediate past director of IIT Delhi. Before joining IIT Delhi as a director in April 2016, Dr. Rao served as a P.K. Kelkar Chair Professor for Nanotechnology in the Department of Electrical Engineering and as the Chief Investigator for the Center of Excellence in Nanoelectronics project at IIT Bombay. Professor Rao's research and leadership contributions have been recognized with over 35 awards and honors in the country and abroad. He is a recipient of 3 honorary doctorates. The recognitions of Professor Rao received include the Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Prize in Engineering Sciences, Infosys Prize, IEEE ETS Education Award, Excellence in Research Awards from IIT Bombay, TAE and DRDO, Swarna Jayanti Fellowship Award from the Department of Science and Technology, IBM Faculty Award, Best Research Award from the Intel Asia Academic Forum, Techno Visionary Award from the Indian Semiconductor Association, J.C. Bose National Fellowship, among many others. Professor Rao was an editor for the IEEE Transactions on Electron Devices during 2003 to 2012 for the CMOS devices and technology area, and currently serves on the editorial advisory board of ACS Nanoletters, a leading international journal in the area of nanotechnology. He also serves as an editor for the IEEE Journal on Flexible Electronics. It is mine and our greatest privilege that Professor Rao has kindly agreed to deliver the keynote address in today's evening. We request you to kindly address the audience, sir, if you please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bhattacharya. Dr. Vishal Talwar, Director of the Institute, Mr. Rahul Kumar, son of Shri Sharat Kumar, because of whom we're all here today, and Dr. Amit Sareen, Dean Academics, and of course, Shri Kamal Nath. It was such a pleasure hearing him and seeing him on the screen here. I, as you all know, I come from IIT Delhi, which is a very comprehensive institute now. We have something like 31 departments and centers and schools right now, and Department of Management Studies is one of them. And I have always heard about IMT Ghaziabad. In fact, many people have told me that this is one of the finest institutions for management, and I have my high regards for what IMT is trying to do and has already done. And in fact, today I'm also happy to be here with all of you because we are celebrating teachers. I think those who have excelled on the education front. You know, I have always believed that I think we are all what we are because of the inspiration that we have received from teachers. So, you know, at some point in time, somebody inspired us to pursue certain area and a certain profession, and that is how we actually moved forward. And I think it's a good occasion that we are celebrating teachers on this occasion. I've also felt that education is something that remains after we have forgotten everything that has been taught in the classroom. So I think that is the true education, that we need to impart to our students. And if you look at any academic institution, there are 3 aspects to an institution. One is, of course, education. And the second is the research. The third is the innovation. This innovation is something that has got added to the academic institution's charter a little bit recently. I think earlier, it was not really so. If you did good education and good research, we were all considered to be good institutions. Now, education, I've always felt, needs to be transformational. I think any student who comes and joins us for any program in our institutions, by the time they graduate, I think, we need to see that transformation in the student. And as long as we are able to do that, I think our education is successful and we will always make good citizens out of them. The research is something where, if everybody is just disseminating the knowledge that is already available, I think it's not going to work. Someone needs to push the boundaries and also generate new knowledge. That is where the research comes in, and therefore education and research, I always believed, need to go hand in hand. And good institutions also do not only do good education, but also there are researchers who do good quality research. And research is always measured these days in terms of publications and also measured in terms of citations. How many people have cited your papers is becoming, is fast becoming a metric for the quality of research. India today stands third in the world when it comes to research impact. So that way, India is indeed doing very well when it comes to its research activities. But when it comes to innovation, the way I would define innovation is generating value for research. You may have written 100 papers, 200 papers, but what is the value accrued out of all these papers, which can be put to societal use? So that value generation of research is what is innovation. And on the innovation front, India is not doing very well. In fact, if you look at the most recent ranking for India on the innovation front, I think we are ranked somewhere in the 46, 47 kind of a place. So while for research we are ranked third, for innovation we are ranked 46. There are many smaller countries which are actually doing much better on the innovation front, while they may not be doing all that well on the research front. I think that is something for India to correct itself now. That is something where India needs to take major steps, and institutions such as ours, whether it is IITs or IMTs, I think we need to lead the way, because being the leadership, having been in the leadership positions on the education front, I think we also need to be the leaders and show the way how research can be converted into innovation. And if you also look at the innovation, the way you measure innovation is in terms of patents. While the research is measured in terms of publications and citations, the innovation is measured in terms of patents and also in terms of the commercial value generated for any technology that we have developed. So if you look at the patents, India is definitely not filing enough patents. I come from an area called nanotechnology. I work in the nanotechnology area, and I recently was looking at some real data for just before COVID, let's say 2019 kind of a time frame. And in 2019, for example, India has published a large number of papers in the nanotechnology space. We are again ranked third in the nanotechnology research. But out of all the papers that we have written, we have filed about something like 50 patents in the nanotechnology space. During the same period, US is after all the capital, when it comes to even the innovation. And in the US, for example, during that same period, they have written slightly more number of papers, but they have filed something like 5,000 patents. That's the kind of a difference that exists between India and a leading country, on the innovation front. India, for example, for every 300 research publications, we are filing one patent. Whereas in the US, for every 5 research publications, they are filing one patent. I think this patenting culture needs to be encouraged. And unless we file more and more patents in this technology space, there will never be any deep technology startups, and there will never be any products, which we can claim as our own. I think the patenting culture is one thing that we need to, significantly enhance in our institutions. At IIT Delhi, we took it upon ourselves as a major mandate. And in the last 5 years, for example, IIT Delhi has filed more patents than the previous 55 years. So we filed over 500 patents in the last 5 years. At the rate, in fact, during the COVID time, the peak of COVID, we filed something like 162 patents, while in the previous 55 years, all the patents amounted to something like 500 patents. So I think that is a kind of a transformation we need to see. Our academic institutions need to do more, need to file more patents. And having said that, even on the research side, while we do a lot of research and publish papers, one thing that is missing is the connect with the society, or the relevance of our research. That is where we are currently lacking. In fact, if you look at US again on the research front, which is one of the torch bearers when it comes to research, even in the US, for example, in 1800s, the US universities were not as well known as the universities in Germany or even in UK. Most of the US universities in those days were actually following what was happening in England and what was happening in Germany, because they were considered to be the pioneers when it came to research. But in the England and Germany, at that time, most of the research was on basic sciences, was on theology, and on theory kind of aspects, where the US universities were always following the UK and the Germany kind of a model. In US, what changed for them in 1852, there was what was known as the Morrill Act. The Senator Morrill introduced an act through which they started to create land grant universities. The land grant university model was very simple. In fact, almost every top university you see in the US today is actually created out of the land grant university model. All that happened as part of the land grant university model was they said any university to receive any kind of a support from the state, you need to work on the problems of society. At that time, the problems of society were primarily in agriculture and mechanic arts, because that is when the industrialization, the steam power, and some of these were beginning to happen. So they said that you have to work on agriculture and mechanic arts, and that is when you can receive support from the government. And through this land grant university model, you see that the universities in the US started connecting with the society, the societal problems, and now, after 200 years, you can see that they are some of the pioneers in all of these areas and centers of excellence in almost every area, that you can think of. I think that connect with the society is what will drive us towards excellence, and that is what we must be doing. In fact, the new education policy that was unveiled in 2020 is also a good step in that direction. In fact, I've always said that the NEP 2020 is our moral movement. I think using NEP 2020, if our institutions can connect with the society, if our research can be made relevant to the people's needs, that is when our institutions will attain excellence, and that is when we will become world-class in terms of our research, in terms of our innovation. In the IIT Delhi, for example, we did some very simple experiments. We said, how do we bring relevance to our research? A typical researcher usually tends to find problems by doing a literature review in the library. In fact, whenever a PhD student joins a faculty member, the first thing you do is go to library, search the literature, find what is done in a particular area, and then identify what has not been done, and then conduct research, using that kind of a literature review. We said, can we take a slightly different sort of a path for finding problems? We said, can we find problems from observing issues in the society? That is when we activated our Humanities and Social Sciences department. We started a Grand Challenge initiative at IIT Delhi, and we told our humanities faculty that now you lead the way. You tell us what exactly are the issues in the society, whether it is agriculture or whether it is any other sort of an issue, and then you explain these problems to engineers. So let us now make a grand challenge sort of a plan, and then let us put our resources to address some of these issues. We also started immersion programs where we started to send our students to rural areas where they can where they can spend their summer working with the farmers, working with village panchayats. We send our students to ministries. We send them to All India Institute of Medical Sciences and other primary healthcare centers. So that way, by being at places where there are real world problems, they came back to the campus and they started to list out the problems and started to focus on addressing some of these challenges. I think through these immersion programs, we were able to take up more and more problems which have relevance to the society. And then we also started to connect with industry much more aggressively. We started at IIT Delhi what we call professors of practice positions. Under the professors of practice positions, we said any industry personnel, anyone who has deep knowledge of an area, even if they did not have a PhD, they can come and get associated with IIT Delhi as a professor of practice, and they can do research with the rest of the IIT faculty and students. So we said 10% of our faculty strength can be professors of practice. So we started recruiting these industry professionals on our faculty, and that has also made wonders. So we were able to eventually connect with a lot of industries and a lot of other industry problems with the help of these professors of practice. We started Industry Day. The other thing we also did was to have established a closer connection with the strategic agencies, and we connected with DRDO. And we actually now at IIT Delhi, after about 4 years of starting our interactions with DRDO, there are about 100 faculty members, 150 PhD students who are working on problems which are defined and funded by DRDO. I think some of these instead of working in a silo when it comes to research, connecting with society, connecting with industry, connecting with these strategic agencies. Similarly, we started an ISRO cell at IIT Delhi. Now there are many faculty members working on the ISRO problems. So once we brought in that relevance, there are more and more faculty now actually addressing the societal problems. We said, what do we need to do? What do we need to do next? We said the delivery aspect of it. Just doing research and building a prototype is not going to change anything on the ground. How do we deliver these solutions to the society? We started a program. We said the faculty need to take a lead when it comes to delivering these results to the society. We started encouraging the faculty-led entrepreneurship. And so we started a program called FIRE, F-I-R-E, Faculty Innovation and Research-Driven Entrepreneurship. Whenever you think you are ready to take a technology to the market, or whenever you think you have worked on a problem and found a solution which is there in the society, then you can start a company. And for that, IIT would give you a grant that will be given as a grant to start a company. And you can make use of all the facilities available in IIT. And in addition to that, you can also take a sabbatical, a 1-year leave to actually start a company. And you can also take further leave if required. So through all of these schemes, we started to encourage more and more faculty-led startups. And now at IIT Delhi, in some departments, every 5th faculty member has a startup of his or her own. And that is now bringing in a transformation, because seeing the faculty members, more and more PhD students are joining hand. So we have seen almost a 4 times increase in the startups from IIT Delhi, thanks to some of these initiatives of connecting the research with the society and picking problems not just from library, but also from the places where there are actually the real world problems. So some of these have made a huge impact at IIT Delhi. And even now for the students, we started something called Discover and Learn 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, one of the problems I noticed was every student wants to do research. They take up a research problem. Within a year, they graduate, and then somebody else comes, starts another research problem. So we figured out that can we make these research problems worked on a relay mode, where we said for every project, there will be one student from each of the years, first year, second year, third year, and fourth year. So we call it a 1, 2, 3, 4 program. And when the fourth year student graduates, the first year student enters the program. And that way, these projects continue to function in a relay mode until they reach a stage where somebody can start a company. And that is what we started about 5 years ago. Now, many of these 1, 2, 3, 4 programs have already become startups, and they are beginning to generate funds from external agencies. We also started a minor degree program in entrepreneurship, which is actually run by our Department of Management Studies, and which is one of the very highly popular management programs or entrepreneurship program on the campus right now. Every student now wants to enroll for this minor degree program, where we teach the students, more about how to write business model, how to build a team, how to lead a team, how to develop a product. I think some of these are becoming very useful right now. I think at the end of the day, I think to me, for India to become a hub for innovation, particularly in the deep tech innovation space, I think our academic institutions need to take a lead. And for that to happen, institutions need to connect with the society in multiple ways and then pick up the right kind of problems. Then using the talent available on the campuses, I think we can now bring in that relevance to the research and eventually deliver that to startups and avenues like that, or even interactions with the industry. I think, to me, the way to do that is by bringing unlike minds together. I have always believed that, if the institutions are very homogeneous, if everybody is admitted to the same entrance exam, if everybody does something very similar, innovation is never going to happen. Innovation will happen only when unlike minds come together. When I say unlike in terms of disciplines, the multidisciplinary kind of research, unlike in terms of attitudes, academia, industry kind of collaborations, unlike in terms of cultures. Even having more and more international students work on our campuses is a way we can actually make the campuses, become melting pots for people coming from different walks of life, and that is when new ideas will come in. That is when with the initiatives like FIRE and other programs, you can actually turn more and more faculty into entrepreneurs. I think things are beginning to happen now. I think I would think that another 3 to 5 years, we will start seeing the impact of all of these in the society. If you see today in India, there are like 107, 108 unicorns. All of these among all these unicorns, not a single one is in the product space. All these unicorns are e-commerce, are more of business model innovation, but there is none in the technology space. I think that needs to change. We need to see that in the next 5 years, we will produce unicorns which are more in the technology space, and that is where collaborations between institutions such as IIT and IMT will be very, very helpful. I will be very happy, to be, helping you in all of these aspects. And I'm very happy to be here with all of you on this auspicious occasion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Professor Rao, for your insightful words on a topic of such prominence and your advices. Listening to you, we understand the importance of innovation. Where do we stand as a whole India? What we need to do to create an innovation-driven research portfolios. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sir. As our former president, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam has said, teachers are the backbone of any country, the pillar upon which all aspirations are converted into realities. These words resonate even louder in the present context when the learning processes are facing tremendous challenges because of both greater and faster levels of technological intervention in teaching and learning processes, also for unending challenges emerging out of uncertainties. For a higher educational institute like IMT, it creates a sense of responsibility to cope up with these challenges and be victorious. Such responsibility can be fulfilled only when the teachers are inspired and driven by themselves to innovate and expand their methods of teaching, as also create substantial depth of knowledge to impart and facilitate appropriate learning processes for their students. To celebrate these achievements of the teachers, as also motivate others, IMT Ghaziabad has last year launched this coveted teaching award named after its former director, late Shri Sharat Kumar Ji last year. This award is in commemoration of his contributions in augmenting academic processes at IMT Ghaziabad at its growing up stage. Now, I request our chief guest, Dr. V. Ramgopal Rao, to please announce the recipient of the second Shri Sharat Kumar Memorial Award for the Best Teaching Professor. If you please, sir.
Thank you. I am very happy to announce the second Shri Sharat Kumar Award for a Best Teaching Professor. The award for this year will be given to Professor Rakesh Kumar Singh. Congratulations, Professor Rakesh Kumar Singh.
A very warm congratulations to Professor Rakesh Kumar Singh. I would now like to request Professor Singh to please say a few words in acceptance. If you please, sir.
Yeah, sure.
Congratulations, Professor.
Thank you very much. A big thank you to my colleagues in marketing area and in the IMT fraternity. I started my academic career here. I have learned a great deal from my colleagues. So this reward and this award in that sense is a tribute to the collegiality that we practice here at IMT. Thanks are also due, of course, to the selection committee, and thanks to Mr. Rahul Kumar for instituting this award with IMT. So it's a great way to be rooted with the rich legacy that we have in the guidance of Sharat Kumar Ji, who was a director here. So thank you very much, all of you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing your heartwarming thoughts and experiences with us. Now, I'm sure none of us would like this moment to come to an end so soon, with such acclaimed dignitaries among us. But as everything good comes to an end, sometime this is also true. So now, I will request our dearest Dean Academics, Dr. Amit Sarin, to please give the vote of thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Amrita. I hope I'm audible. Yes.
Yes, sir, you are.
Okay, good. So I'd like to remember Sharat Kumar Ji, who served as the director of IMT Ghaziabad from 1995 to 2002 and chairman management committee during 2003 to 2005. And since he was here at the campus, in fact, I called a couple of people today who worked with him, and I said that I don't want to read from a profile, I want to read from your memories of your experience with him. And they tell us, or rather, when we had a discussion today, that he had a very versatile personality, a highly positive person, and focused on the development of the institute. And his focus was on faculty, as I think Shri Kamal Nath Ji also said that even at that time, getting good faculty was tough. And thus it is so much appropriate that the Best Teaching Award is in his memory, that is there at the institute. And one thing I liked is that he said that we all have good thoughts, but those good thoughts should be converted into action. And people really matter in an organization. So he was very people-centric. And he said that individuals' growth happens when, and then organizations grow. And a person-centric model, and also he had that the right person should be at the right place. So IMT remembers him as a great leader and a mentor. I would like to also thank our chief mentor, Mr. Kamal Nath, for coming and gracing this particular occasion and spending his time. I would like to thank Professor V. Ramgopal Rao, who former director IT Delhi, who gave us very good insights into how a research ecosystem should be developed and how research should be connected with the society and the industry, and that is something very relevant, because then only you are contributing to startups or entrepreneurs. So that, in fact, I would like to thank him also for having a talk with us, all of us, before this event. And we had a very good set of insights on this. I would like to thank Mr. Rahul Kumar Ji for coming and spending his time, as well as for instituting this particular award, which is so relevant for our institute. And of course, I'd like to congratulate Professor Rakesh Singh.
Thank you.
For getting the Best Teaching Award. And also, maybe I'll like to attend your class also once. So congratulations, Professor Rakesh.
Thank you.
Also, I would like to congratulate Professor Harvinder Singh and Professor Garima Saxena for being nominated at such a high level, So that itself is a very big achievement to be shortlisted among a faculty of around 70 plus. And congratulations to Professor Harvinder, Professor Garima. And I would like to thank Professor Talwar and our faculty colleagues for making this such a memorable event, and particularly Amrita for anchoring this entire event. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for taking your time out from your busy schedule and for joining us today to celebrate this momentous ceremony. Once again, Rakesh sir, congratulations. So thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your experience and thoughts. I wish all of you have a very good evening. With this, I think we are at the end of our ceremony today. Have a great day, have a great evening, and a great weekend.